Welcome to Legends in Leadership, brought to you by ISF and the Carrington Group. Legends in Leadership is an inspirational podcast featuring the stories of leaders who are making a difference. Our goal is to inspire you with the stories of leaders who come from humble beginnings, overcome challenges, and ultimately rise up to make a difference in people's lives.
Hello and welcome to Legends in Leadership. This is your host, Jason Smith. I'm a family officer with the Carrington Group, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Dr. Blair Ritchie, Executive Director of the International Student Foundation. So just a duo today.
Hey, we're excited though, aren't we?
We are very excited about our guest today.
Great show.
As we do every week, we're going to start with some leadership trivia from Dr. Blair. What do you have for us?
Well, today I've got to do a little personal tribute. Today is September 12th when we're airing this, and for you numerologists out there, that's 9/12. Now, there's nothing really special, right, about the combination of numbers 9/12. But if we back it up one day and I say 9/11, everything changes, right? Because everything changed on 9/11 14 years ago. So today's legendary leader is one of the many heroes who stepped up in the face of incredible danger on 9/11 2005. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. And today's legendary leader perished in a field about 30 miles from where I grew up. He was a 32-year-old account manager with Oracle, just an ordinary guy, married, a Cubs fan, big-time sportsman, taught a Sunday school class, father of 2 boys, and also, I guess, a daughter who would be born 4 months after his death. He had purchased a ticket aboard United Airlines Flight 93. It was supposed to be a quick business trip for a meeting out in California, but the plane was hijacked by Islamic terrorists and was heading toward our nation's capital. But the passengers aboard that fateful flight quickly organized, and it was our legendary leader's words that were captured on a cell phone call. He said, "You guys ready? Let's roll." And with that, they stormed the cockpit and made sure that this plane would never hit its intended target. And we say there are some things you should never forget. And so this week, we're remembering the many heroes who stepped up on 9/11. So who's today's legendary leader? I'll be back at the close of the program with the answer.
Yeah, powerful story.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to welcome our guest today. A true Texan, Carey Stinson, is a professional photographer, actor, motivational speaker, and now host and executive producer of a new podcast coming this fall. Before that, Stinson played the coveted role of Barney the Dinosaur for 22 years, touring the world along with 7 seasons starring on the TV show Barney and Friends. The experience of playing the role of America's favorite dinosaur inspired Carey's love and passion for spreading love and inspiration through photography and now a podcast. As a proud Texan, Carey loves to capture the true roots of Texas in his fine art photography, which can be found in Sparrow's gallery in Denison, Texas. Coming soon, Carey will be bringing the inspiration and insight to the world with the launch of his podcast that will feature insider conversations from the people involved in children's entertainment. Definitely looking forward to that podcast. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
We do have a legend today, don't we?
Absolutely.
Barney.
An icon, a children's icon.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So we're excited to hear a little bit about the backstory.
Sure.
How does someone become one of the iconic figures in children's entertainment?
It's I don't want to say luck, because I think it was so much more than that. I think there was a force driving me to this. The short of the story is that I was a musician. I went to college to learn how to play the piano, and got out of college and was trying to figure out how to make a living doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And my father said to me, "Son, you need to get a job," which happens
That's
a lot.
dad thing.
Yeah, absolutely,
Thing.
absolutely. And I knew he was pretty serious about it, so I got the paper, which back in 1991, that's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a job at Chili's. The only thing they had was a busboy. So I needed to get a job. I took it. 2 days later, I'm working, and this guy says to me, one of my coworkers, "Hey, could you work for me tomorrow morning because I have to be Barney?" I said, "What is Barney?" There was no TV show at this point. No one really knew outside of Dallas what Barney was. They had done a couple videos, and he was doing birthday parties, and he said, as Barney, and he said, "They need someone else. I'm getting ready to go off to college. You should give this lady a call." So I did. And if you know how this, she told me to look at the videos, and I've never been in a costume, nothing like this. She said, "I'll give you a call." Of course, she didn't give me a call, which is pretty common here. I called her. She said, "I've already hired someone else, but I'm going to need a second person," and he asked off for the first month. Very common also. So I did it for a month. I got pretty good at it. Did it for 8 months. Loved it. It was fun. And they said, there's TV show coming out called Barney and Friends, and they're going to have to stop this, but they need a second person for promotions. Are you interested? I said, absolutely. You get one audition.
Oh, okay. Gosh.
Yeah, one audition. They
One
made
shot.
that very clear to me. So the creators of the show watched me interact with children, and they came afterwards and said, "That was good." I don't know what. Did I get the job? Very common in this industry. You're hearing a lot of themes. And so I got a call a week later, and I did JCPenney tour with Barney. We were going into malls across this country. And the goal here was, or the objective was, that Barney was going to be in the display of the JCPenney store, where all the new merchandise was. Mm-hmm. And so you could meet Barney. They did the first one in Mesquite, Texas. 7,000 people showed up, destroyed the store. Absolutely destroyed the store. And so they said, we got a new rule. No one goes to Barney. Barney goes to them. We did it all weekend around North Texas, 7,000 pretty much everywhere we went. We went to New York the next week, 25,000. Baltimore, 40,000, and it just kept growing.
Wow.
And I was still a busboy during the week. And on the weekend, I was this... no one knew, but I was kind of a rock star in the children's entertainment world.
Keeps you humble, though, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Working at Chili's during the week, and then you're essentially this rock star in costume on the weekends.
Absolutely.
I'm curious what, in your opinion, was that draw that kids just seem to instantly connect with Barney and Friends and really see him as their friend?
I really believe it's he loved everyone. Mm-hmm. He accepted everyone. There was no judge. He just loved everyone. So he became your friend immediately. And I've just never seen anything like it. Mm-hmm.
So you're a character, right? You're playing a character,
yes,
and yet you're becoming someone yourself.
Absolutely.
How did playing a character shape who you are today?
It's really interesting. I came from a very loving family. My dad came from a divorced household, and so when he had a family, he really wanted to push that. Mm-hmm. So the love aspect of it was already kind of in there for me. And then when I started doing this, and I started seeing how unbelievable these kids loved Barney and the passion, and then I started doing hospital appearances, and I saw stuff that, sick children that were all of a sudden didn't seem like they were sick.
Wow.
And so it really inspired me, and it really kind of showed me that things can always be worse, mm-hmm, and the positivity in this. I mean, I did a children's hospital one time, and they said, you're going to go in a burn unit and see this child, and you can only go in by yourself. And we had no voice at the time, so I only did the costume. There was another actor doing the voice, and so I go in and don't know what I'm going to expect. I'm going to see, and obviously it wasn't. Wow. It was a tough situation. Yeah. And the child immediately starts smiling, starts saying, Barney, I love you, and starts singing the I Love You song.
Wow.
Our big song. And at the end, and of course I'm trying to keep it together, and I blow her a kiss, and she goes, Barney, I love you. Well, how is that possible? How is that possible? Mm-hmm. Right? I think as adults we get down on what we've got going on in our lives, and she didn't know she was sick. Her friend was here. Barney was here. Yeah. And that's all that mattered. And I saw that for 22 years. Mm. So it inspires me every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
And for it to be such a lasting character as well. So many shows come and go, 2-3 seasons, but for over 20 years, clearly there was an impact and a connection, with multiple generations of kids through that time frame.
Yes, and the incredible thing is it hasn't stopped. I had the opportunity to get back in May.
Okay.
So 8 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone in the room knows who he is. Everyone wants a picture. Everyone wants to tell you their stories.
Right.
Christine Baranski, who's a famous actress, she's on the show, The Good Wife right now. Barney, I need my picture. I got 3 grandbabies.
So people in their 30s coming to see Barney,
yeah.
and now bringing their kids to see Barney.
Absolutely, and the millennials go crazy for it. They absolutely love it, and the stories that they send me is incredible of how it's touched and changed their lives.
Yeah. So filming the show, a little bit different, a smaller group of people. What was it like to be on set with folks for that period of time? I guess help us understand a little bit about how the kids get involved with the show and kind of come and go over
Sure.
that time frame.
So I did the touring for 5 years. I did promotion, and then I did the TV show for 10 years. We shot it in Carrollton, Texas. You'd never know. It looked like a big old office building. You'd never know. I had 3 studios in there. Everything was produced in there. We'd have what's called Barney Camp. So when the kids are hired, when they audition and they're hired, these are large costumes, and they're very physical.
Okay.
So we got to make sure they understand what it feels like to get bumped in one. Barney's got a large tail, so make sure they understand that. They actually get to get into the costume so they see what we're going through. So those kids obviously know. All of the extras don't know.
Okay.
They don't get to see us. They don't know there's costumes, So, and then you've got a crew some of those crew members have been doing Barney for 15, 20 years at that point. We all have headsets so they can talk to me, and then the voice is actually in another room, so he's watching on monitors. All of the dialogue is live. The songs are pre-recorded, but his mic is live. So if I decide to do a jump and he wants to. So it's a lot more sophisticated than I think people had any clue what all's involved in putting one of those shows together.
Sure. A mix of choreographed and set, but also a bit of kind of on the fly movement as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would have a dance rehearsal each week for the costume characters, obviously, and the kids. You've got table reads like you'd have in any other show. Blocking involved. And then you've got, all kinds of effects and props, and, I roller skated. I jumped in a swimming pool. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, I did. Yeah, they built roller skates, and Barney skated through the park.
Wow.
That's something that I think the kids really loved, the fans at home.
Right.
Barney was like them.
It wasn't a puppet.
I could jump rope. Right. I
Right.
did jump rope. Very large jumping rope. I skated. I actually jumped in a pool, a smaller pool, but jumped in a pool. So we did a lot of that, activities that kids would do. Barney was doing the same thing they were doing. He's just a lot bigger and purple.
Why do you think you were so good at doing what you did? It's a long run, and what about your story that made that a good thing for you?
There was no way I could leave after I saw the impact, really, to be selfish, they were having on my life. I mean, I can't even tell you what it's like to, I always talk a lot about the hospital appearances, but it's just all of the kids, whether they were sick or not, had such an incredible impact on me, this unconditional love that they would show. And I saw I was doing something important with my life, and everyone involved in that show knew that. From the lighting guy to props to everyone knew. On the tour, I was with one of my good friends who was, he's actually on tour right now with a band called Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, yeah.
He was on tour with Maroon 5, and we were talking the other night. He had left the Rolling Stones to go to Barney. Wow. He didn't even know what Barney was. And he said the roar was as loud as any rock show he'd ever done. It changed their lives. I mean, it changed all of our lives. How could you walk away from that?
Yeah.
I jumped back in a second.
Right. You did.
I did.
So it must have been a very special group of people, to have that long of a run and not begin to get some of those outside influences and make it more about the show and the money than the cause. How do you think y'all were able to even today continue with such a pure expression of that creativity?
I think we're so lucky that it was done in Dallas, Texas. I'm as you say, proud Texan.
Yeah,
I am.
yeah.
We weren't influenced in Hollywood or New York. We were doing our own thing. And so we saw the impact that it had on the audience. And so there was no way we were going to change. It was working. You know, I mean, songs like Mr. Knickerbocker and Raindrops I've done thousands of times, but
Right.
it never gets old to me because I see the impact. I used to do a 30-minute sing-along. We would do them all across the country as a promotional. And of course, I know what songs are coming up. It's the coolest thing in the world to know, oh my gosh, this is coming up. These kids are going to do this. And I mean, every time.
Yeah.
Every time. So we all got it. We understood how important it was to people. And we all knew we were doing something special.
Yeah. So I'm curious now, with people having been influenced by Barney, have you ever met someone who had a story for you about how it impacted them as a child, now as an adult? Kind of looking back, has anyone ever shared something like that
I get
with
them
you?
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. They send me emails. They send me messages. The beauty of social media. I've had people, I had a kid, who's now an adult, but tell me that he was never told he was loved. He came from a divorced family, and Barney was his love.
Wow.
And he still plays the I Love You song today.
Oh,
Just because if
Sure.
he's down, if life is down. I had another one send me a message not too long ago how he used to watch it with the show with his grandmother, and his grandmother just passed away, and he was so distraught. He lived in Florida, and he and his girlfriend went to the Barney show that's in Universal, Day in the Park with Barney. That was the first thing he needed to do.
Wow.
And he actually went up to the meet and greet afterwards to meet Barney, and he started to cry, and the actor hugged him and sat with him for 15 minutes. This is a grown man. But it's bigger than that,
Yeah, that
right?
connection.
It's bigger than that, the connection, the love, the acceptance. You know, it's so incredible to me what we're trying to do in this world. And Barney was doing it 25 years ago.
Right.
You know, we're all talking about it. Why don't we do this and why don't we do that? Well, Barney's been doing it forever.
Right.
And it obviously had an impact on people. And I think as you start realizing that, you let all this stuff go, you know?
Of how simple it can be.
Right. Right. When you just go in and you just pure joy and love people, and look at the response you can get and the people you meet, and I mean, my life has changed forever.
Yeah.
I love it that you guys got that and you didn't lose that. That's a great thing. Kudos to you. What was the hardest thing about being Barney? What was the hardest thing about that run?
Well, it was a very physical job. So there was some aspects of that, especially when we toured. So I toured for 5 years. I did over 1,000 shows in 5 years. So yes, there was legs and ankles and backs and things like that. So keeping that physical aspect up, because you know your audience is expecting what they see on TV.
Right.
So you can't, that energy has got to be there. And sometimes you're doing 2 shows, it's like a Broadway show. So we're doing with 7, 8 shows a week. And, Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, I got to come firing out of that curtain and go for an hour and a half.
Just like it's the first show of the year.
That's right, at full energy. Doing Barney was doing all these crazy moves of aerial 360s and belt kicks, and that takes a lot of effort in that big of a costume, and it weighed over 50 pounds. So
wow.
you got to come out and fire that thing off, and then you get done, and you got to go do it again. So.
Everybody I talked to who has had a long run at something, the key to that was always the mission. It was always the cause. It was always something bigger than money or bigger than anything that was self-absorbed. And hearing you talk about that, hearing you talk about the you guys got, this was about love. This was about the impact it was having on children. That isn't that always the key to a long run in anything, is that you stay mission driven, you stay true to the cause.
Without question. And mine was easy. I mean, there was never, I had other opportunities at times to leave and go do other things. There was no way I was leaving. There was no way. The effect and what was happening was incredible. And just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, clearly the passion that you have for that period in your life is spilling over now into some new projects.
Yes.
As an inspirational speaker and now kicking off a podcast this fall. Tell us a little bit more about the topic of the podcast and the audience you want to reach with it.
So back in March of this year, I started one called Purple Tales. We did 23 episodes of Purple Tales, and it was the stories of the Barney universe. So we had all of these amazing people that we've been talking about, allowing them to tell their stories for the first time. And I started realizing that we could go even further with this. So the new show is going to really get into not only the Barney universe, but even bigger than that. I know a lot of people with Sesame Street and the Wiggles and Mr. Rogers and all of these people. So we're going to go bigger, and we're going to really get into the insider aspect of this. So some of the co-hosts will actually be people that have been on these shows, that have been part of this, helping me interview people. So you'll have a voice actor interviewing a voice actor with a body costume person there. And we're going to go deeper into that. Animation has become very popular, anime. So I'm connected with a lot of people in that world too. So we're going to go to these different places and tell these stories that it's really, you will just won't even believe.
Yeah.
So very excited to allow people to get out there and tell these stories.
And who did you look to during your run for ongoing inspiration or influence from the business to keep doing it with that mission, purpose-driven character?
My family, my dad and my mother. The amazing story is that, I was looking for a job. So every time they'd come to me, can you be in the costume? Yes. Can you do that? Yes. And one time they said, can you dance? Yes. I can't dance. My mom's a professional dancer for 70 years, and she actually taught me all the Barney moves. I came back with the video. She learned them. We went in true story, went in my parents' garage. I built a fake costume, so I got a backpack with weight and my mom's old fur coat.
Yeah.
And she taught me how to do all those proper moves in the garage. And my dad was such a never give up, never stop. When I got into going to become a musician in college, I had failed out of business, out of school, going after business because my dad was a businessman. I mean, failed miserably. And one of them was public speaking, and I passed out on my first public speaking. I passed out, fell on the floor. And I went to my dad. I said, I'm dropping out, and I really don't know what to do. And he said, what do you want to do? I don't care if it's possible or not. What do you want to do? I said, I want to be a piano player. 3 days later, we drove down to Waco, and he enrolled me in college. And that mentality, when they came to me about Barney, I was like, yeah, I can do this. And so my family really pushed me. And it's still to this day on every project I work on, they are. So I'm so fortunate to have that to push me. And like I said earlier, the message of love, I've had that with my family.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to get that and share that out for people that weren't loved. It's been an incredible experience to pass that along.
That's such a great foundation, working with these students who are foster care students, aging out of the system. That's one of the things that our organization is really trying to help them understand, is that there are people out there that want them to win, that do love them for who they are, and pairing them up with those mentors, to sort of bridge that gap.
It's great. It's a great way to go through life, isn't it? Whenever you're making a difference in somebody else's life.
Well, absolutely. And being able to tell these stories again has been amazing. To tell people, look, I was told no 1,000 times.
Right.
There's no reason I should be here right now, except I just didn't stop. I just didn't give up. And we all go through that. And I think it really helps people when they realize, oh, I'm going through the same thing everyone else goes through.
Yeah. Well, we could spend another 30 minutes hearing more stories. It's truly been a pleasure to have you on the episode today. Just before we wrap up, how can people follow you or maybe get notified when the podcast launches? How can they connect with you?
So I have a Carey Stinson page on Facebook, kind of a Barney a podcast Barney fan page. Okay. And then my photography, Carey Stinson Photography. You can find me all my work. I do a lot of corporate photography, portrait photography, and music photography because I love music. And you can find me on Instagram, and you'll get all the information about the new podcast.
Great. I'm looking forward to that. Sounds like an amazing opportunity to hear stories from the people that have created so much memorable content for generations.
Well, and you get to see them too, because it'll be on YouTube, so you actually get to see the people, because everyone wants to know what we look like.
Right.
So
who are these people?
You get to see us for the first time.
Yeah. Well, Carey, thank you again for joining us on today's episode. It's truly been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
We're going to hand it back over to Dr. Blair for the answer to our trivia question.
Okay, so the 9/11 observation yesterday, I'm sure in many places around the country, these stories were told, and the Let's Roll story is one of my favorites. And certainly being a Pennsylvanian, I've been to the Flight 933 Memorial many times, and it's a great venue to just pay homage and to give thanks for leaders like Todd Beamer. And Todd Beamer is our legendary leader for the day.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing and keeping that memory alive of the heroes of that day. Well, folks, that's a wrap for our show today. On behalf of our special guest, Carey Stinson, Blair Ritchie, and myself, Jason Smith, I want to wish you a good day. And remember this: if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader.
Legends in Leadership is brought to you by the Carrington Group. Carrington Group is a family office with a passion for helping business leaders and their families make smart choices and fulfill their highest aspirations. To learn more about the Carrington Group, visit their website at www.carringtonfo.com or Google Carrington Group, Dallas, Texas. ISF is committed to leadership development for aged-out foster care and orphaned youth. ISF's mission is to transform these youth into tomorrow's leaders with scholarships, mentoring, and leadership training. To learn more about ISF, visit their website at isfsite.org or Google International Student Foundation to learn more.
Securities offered through Regulus Advisors, LLC. Member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Regal Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors are affiliated entities. Carrington Group and this broadcast are independent of Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors.